All right, we are live and welcome to another episode of the Sports Insiders. I am the sniper, and to your right is the sports agent himself, Sean Russey. You can also catch us along with the pundit on Top Rope Talk. That's Mondays at six. What was it? But yeah, 7:30 Eastern on the Sideline Sports Network, right here on Sideline Sports. But also check out all of our great shows. Follow us on our platforms. Hit the like and subscribe button if you're watching this on YouTube for all updates and brand new episodes. So we got a huge game tonight, Rams Seahawks. Gonna get you out there in just a little bit, but just wanted to cover up a few topics, of course, for our weekly episode of the Sports Insiders. So, there was a huge change in the college sports world when Michigan head coach Sherrone Moore was fired for policy violation and then subsequently arrested on assault charges. Sean, if you want to shed light on details.
Yeah, so just to give some overview, he's been at Michigan for a long time. He's was a tenured assistant coach. He became the head coach in 2024 after Harbaugh departed. He's credited with basically the physical offensive nature that Michigan plays with and giving them that. I mean, it came from Harbaugh really, but he was the running game coordinator, so he's getting a little more credit. He's also the first black head coach in Michigan history. Um, Before we get to the current scandal, he was also in the other one that was well covered. It was on a 30 for 30, which is the sign stealing scandal with Connor Stallions. He
Uh huh.
wasn't accused of orchestrating this scheme, but he was accused of having a bit of a role in how the communications were going with the staffers and Stallions. Um, the penalties included suspension and a penalty related to deleted text that happened during the investigation. So there was obviously some feeling that he was covering something up there. Now this is completely different, right? Um, a
hmm
staffer he has a relationship with, an affair, since he has a wife at home. Um, Obviously, as Michigan said, this is out of our realm, that we don't condone these things. It's out of university policy. We prohibit these types of relationships, and it's on the supervisor to actually report it, even if it is to happen. But obviously, in this situation, when someone's having an affair, most likely they're not reporting the relationship, regardless if the person is what most would consider, someone he should be dating
The
or shouldn't be
supervisor
dating.
has the
Yeah. But to
yeah. The
put it all
supervisor
on,
has the most to lose.
yeah, to put it, to say like, well, supervisors, it should be either party could report the relationship really, but that's here nor there. Obviously, what he did was very wrong. But it's really
Right.
the aftermath that people are focused on, because he kind of seems to have maybe snapped into it and kind of felt like, wow, I messed up my whole life here, and then kind of went on a little, I don't want to say rampage, but just kind of freaked out and apparently put himself in a house with a woman
I'd
and got
call it a rampage,
arrested.
but yeah.
But and so now we've got all these extra charges that probably wouldn't have even been involved in this had he just accepted the fact that, yes, I did wrong, I need to be punished, I need to be removed as head coach, I need to step down. But now we have all this extra stuff kind of stemming from the fact that he just kind of lost it when he got caught. um so I think we've seen it. He probably could have survived the scandal by himself. With the arrest, I think we're probably seeing the end of him in the coaching ranks, probably ever.
And he's only 39 years old. The initial story that came out was that apparently the female staffer had gotten pregnant by him, and he door dashed a Plan B, and the
Yep.
DoorDasher had actually recognized his name and reported to the university. But then in later reports, I had read that it actually was the female staffer that reported it. Now it could be both. Also, um, I know there's more details going out about that. To your point, Sean, I would say that he kind of did go on a rampage because it's like he just lost his job behind this girl and everything. So, they're
It's no
as of
different
right
than
now, they're
someone going on a bender, but obviously this is violence involved, and it's just something where he put other people at risk with what he was doing at the time, and obviously, very much broke several laws in what he did after the fact.
absolutely. Hey, was there any news that he got bailed out? Right?
He did. He pled not guilty. He's out on bond right now. I believe he's got another hearing coming up here before the end of the year. The university, in terms of summarizing it, the university fired him based on violations of conduct and disclosure, which is kind of hilarious to me that you even put the disclosure part in there. You could have just stopped at conduct. Like it's not
Yeah.
like I said. I think it was just disclosure. He probably gets a slap on the wrist and is back in a job, and whatever he deals with off the field personally in his own house is something different. But I think it would have been a slap on the wrist if that's where we stopped. The university has stated the criminal charges are separate. They don't get into that, and those charges remain pending. um, the university has opened an investigation into basically every athletic staff member, and they have come out and said that even if there's an inkling whether they were involved in this or involved in something new or some other things that they haven't reported, they're just going to clean house at this point. So we could see a lot of news coming out of Michigan in the coming weeks.
Oh yeah. Oh, okay. Absolutely. Um. So with that being said, we'll move on to our next topic, and that is the NBA player participation policy. So no more load management, or what's going on? Now I do know that they did have this actually set either last year or the year before, but they were saying like, okay, you have to play like at least 65 games or something like that in order to qualify for like any season awards and such. It says here that so far this season, the Cleveland Cavaliers are the only NBA team that are fined for violating the league's player participation policy by resting healthy star players. Now, no other NBA teams have been publicly fined this season specifically for sitting star players. There have been other fines around the league, and they've been for unrelated conduct or maybe some rule violations. But the league has made their statement almost half a million in fines for the Cavaliers for 2 games missed by Garland and Spider Mitchell. So, Sean, do you think this is the end of load management?
So I think teams are going to get a little more smart about how much they're reporting injuries and how quickly they report an injury. That way, a guy can sit out. Um, Sitting out a guy for rest is clearly not going to fly anymore. Like you said, it was $350,000 total. Almost half a million, and they only missed. Garland sat out 1 game, Mitchell sat out 1 game, but they had got fined for Garland sitting out. Then they got the second fine for Mitchell setting out. We'll look deeper and report next week if there's penalties for third and fourth other than larger fines. I would assume kind of like the cap, you could eventually get into where they could take draft picks if you continue to dis you know blatantly ignore the rule. Um,
Right.
so I just I think it's a signal to other teams that they're not messing around with this. Those are some hefty fines. Obviously, teams can afford to do this if they choose to do so, but that's still $350,000 just over 2 games. Um,
Yeah.
so I think you're going to see more injuries reported because players are going to still want the rest, but we're not going to call it load management. So I think the NBA is again going to have to look at another way in terms of how
Hmm.
we report injuries, how we actually decide if that injury needs to be listed as a game time decision. I think that's probably what a lot of teams are doing now because I've seen it more now, and I know some of it has to do with the betting we're dealing with. But injuries are getting reported at 9, 12, 3 o'clock leading up to the upcoming NBA games, and then of course 5, 6, and 7. And I think teams that are listing those guys right at 9 a.m. are basically going in that gray area where if he's if just a little stub toe or whatever, but it's LeBron, why are we listing him? Oh, he's going to sit out. It's probably a load management game, but we did make it look like an injury.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much so. I mean, I think what the NBA also is looking out for, ultimately, by my theory, are their ticket sales. People pay to come and see star players,
No, and their TV
and
ratings are down. So I mean, and it's been talked about for years that the product is just not as good with this wide open offense. People are not really clinging on to it.
yeah, yeah, pretty much so. I mean, shoot, look at well, that's another conversation. I was gonna mention the Luka trade, but that's a whole nother theory. I'm gonna move on here. So, is Brandon Ayuk done in San Francisco? So the 49ers had placed him on a the reserve left squad list, effectively ending his 2025 season and signaling a likely split with the team. He'd been absent from team facilities and communication for over a month, which is crazy, creating increasing tension with the organization. San Fran voided approximately 27 million in guaranteed money from his contract, further weakening his ties to the franchise. So with the season over and the relationship deteriorated, the Niners are widely expected to move on from Ayuk in the offseason. He may have screwed himself because I don't know another team out there that is going to pay him the money that San Fran was going to pay him. But your thoughts on this?
No, I think he's really. I don't know, obviously, if this was advice from his agent or things had just gotten so sour in San Francisco because, as we detailed on previous shows, there's been a lot of tension even from the previous offseason with Ayuk and the 49ers. So, I don't know what advice he received, but obviously going absent from the facilities in July, going absent in the facilities over the last month where there was talks that you may have been, given your 3 week window right around the time you went absent from the facility. Um, but he
Right.
really did San Francisco a favor. He shot himself in the foot, but he's done the Niners a favor because now they're out from a huge dead money contract because the guarantees are voided. So they can cut him. They no longer have to trade him. They no longer have to worry about getting under market value. They can cut him and have a lot less of a cap hit than they would have had he really basically just followed the rules of the team and not had these guarantees voided. I think what Ayuk is looking at himself is he'll get a 1 year prove it deal somewhere. It will be more than a normal prove it deal. It's probably 7.5 to 10 million for 1 year because he did have two really good seasons as their number one wide receiver. Um, so he probably gets 1 year somewhere. Um, but I don't see him returning to the Niners, even in a trade situation. I think they're just going to cut bait as soon as they can when the new year league year opens.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't know why I could kind of see him ending up in Pittsburgh, and not because he looks like Mike Tomlin with dreads, but yeah, I think there's a team out there that might sign him on a prove it deal. But I think his chances on getting the money that San Fran was going to pay, I think they're shot.
No,
I think
he
that's
won't
it.
get that. Not this time around. If he takes the 1 year and he proves he's healthy and he's the guy he was before the injury, then next offseason he can go back to the table for somebody and then he'll get paid because it'll still only be 28 at that point.
Yeah, pretty much so. Well, we're actually going to take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we will talk about our last topic, and that is some MLB top free agent signings. So don't go away. We'll be right back. And here is a commercial from the flagship show, Sideline Sports.
Sideline Sports live every Tuesday night at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time.
Killen Clark is Larry Bird, I would say, and Paige Beckers is Magic Johnson.
It's kind of like an oxymoron,
Yeah, moron is right.
It's gonna
Maybe when they listen to
Well
people
said.
like you, that's how they continue being the Browns.
They did have that type of talent for the pro level, but the scouts failed the team.
I disagree. The Panthers, I'm not saying they're making the playoffs, but they're going to be really hard to beat this year. Bryce
They're not
Young
winning
I
the
have
division.
heard.
So they're not winning the division. Hooked up with some chick, and then he told her he was a linebacker.
And so that is the that's welcome back to the Sports Insider Show, and that is from our flagship show, the Sideline Sports Show, which you can catch every Tuesday night at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. For the next 2 weeks, it'll be off for the holidays, so the next show will be on January the 6th. It'll be really fun. We're going to cover, of course, the downstretch of the NFL regular season, as well as we should be in the middle of the college football playoffs at the time period. So every Tuesday night, 8:30 p.m. Sideline 8:30 p.m. Eastern Sideline Sports Network. Now on to our final topic, and that is some MLB top free agency signings. We have got. Oh man, you actually. Okay, so an update. All right, so we got Dylan Cease going to the Blue Jays. He signed for 7 years, 210 mil. Pete Alonso signed for 5 years, 155 mil to the Orioles. Kyle Schwarber re-signed to the Phillies for 5 years, 150 million. Edwin Diaz, 3 years for 69 million to the Dodgers. Tyler Rogers, 3 years, 37 million to the Blue Jays. Kenny Jansen still hanging around. He's still got a nasty fastball going. 1 year, $11 million to the Detroit Tigers. Brad Keller, 2 years, 22 million to Philadelphia. Luke Weaver, 2 years, 22 million to the New York Mets. Hassan Kim, 1 year, 20 million to the Atlanta Braves. Emilio Pagan, 2 years, 20 million to the Cincinnati Reds. And as of yesterday, I don't have the monetary details. Maybe you do if you heard, but in a stunning move, in my opinion, outfielder Adolis Garcia going from the Rangers to the Philadelphia Phillies.
Yeah, I mean the Phillies just continue to add that lineup, especially with Schwarber returning. I mean they've definitely surpassed the Mets in that division in terms of a lineup from 1 to 9, and they've really started to put a lineup together that can go 8 9 runs with the Cubs and Dodgers now.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, these teams are, because you know what? Here's the thing: they may as well load up while they can, because I foresee within the next, and we talked about this, within the next 5 years, them instituting a salary cap in Major League Baseball.
Yeah,
So
and
they may
we
as well go
discussed
ahead
it a
and load up
little
while they
bit.
can.
It seems to be coming because the competitive balance, the competitive balances that they've done with the draft lottery that they've done, that they've added here over the years, it is not working. The sharing of international pool money to sign international draft signees doesn't work because the true free agents who are really impact guys come over from Japan and North Korea, etc. Those are the guys that are getting the big contracts in the offseason. As much as the international guys from DR are getting signed, they're so young. They're years and years off. So the big splash in the
Right.
international pool really is the guys from Japan. And a different set of rules obviously applies to them than it applies to the international signees from the DR. But it's one of these things where, because the teams that can go into the luxury tax, they win these contests for the guys from there more often than a team, say, like the Brewers.
Yeah.
There's 2 or 3 guys left from Japan right now on the free agent list, and you keep continuously hear it's the Blue Jays, it's the Dodgers, it's the Yankees, it's the Mets that are the front runners for all of these guys. And
Yeah.
it's the teams that are willing to go into luxury tax. They're not the only 4 in there, but they're the 4 that are some of the deepest into the tax. The Mets have done some interesting things. There's some moves not listed on here. Luke Weaver, who some of you might remember as a starter, is now a reliever. He was a reliever for the Yankees last year. This is actually the second reliever the Mets have taken from the Yankees in free agency. They also signed another reliever to replace Edwin Diaz in anticipation that they didn't want to match his offer. So the Mets, effectively didn't spend 225 and replaced them spending, the relievers at least spending the exact same amount they would have had to spend just on Diaz on the 3 relievers they did sign. So they're playing a little
Okay.
bit of money ball there in New York, and they may be actually preparing for, like you just said, the preparation for the salary cap that seems to be coming in on the next time we do battle in the CBA here.
Yep. Pretty much so. It seems like the hot spot, and you just alluded to it, the hot spot to pick out of is Japan right now. Much like the NBA, their hot spot to pick out of is Europe, so it makes you wonder where football is going. But
No, because as much like I said, these guys from the Latin countries, they come up and make an impact, but it's years after their signings. These Japan guys are basically veterans. They've just been playing pro ball in a different country, and a lot of them now, obviously more so than we just had, like Hideo Nomo, and once in a while then Matsui came over, and one of them would really pan out. Now more and more they are panning out.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And so, it is 8:02 p.m. Eastern. So we have run out of time. Thanks a lot for joining us on this episode of the Sports Insiders, and we will see you next episode. Be sure to follow us on the Sideline Sports Network. If you got us on YouTube, hit the like and subscribe button for all notifications, updates, and new episodes. We may or may not be. Actually, no, we won't be next week because it's the holiday. You know what? Yeah, the next 2 weeks are holidays. So, this is the final show for 2025. I just thought about it. And so, yeah, we will all see you the first week of January. Stay safe. Spend time with your families. have a few drinks, eat some turkey, ham, or whatever. Maybe you're not a ham person, would eat turkey for a second time. By all means, have at it. I'm not really a ham person. I love turkey, so there it is. But we will see you all. You all stay blessed. Have a happy holiday. We will see you the first week of January for a new season of the Sports Insiders.